Morena boys, hope all's going well for you. I thought I'd post this little video to give you some feedback on the Mars assignment and to demonstrate some ways in which you might be able to meet the requirements of the standard. I've also included a little exercise that I want you to do with your final assignment, which is checking off your work against the marking grid. Okay, so here we go. First off, I've introduced the idea of cellular respiration. So that's the process by which our cells take food, our glucose from our food, and combine it with oxygen to release energy. So here's the equation, and you might remember that from junior science, although we've also talked about it earlier on this year. So glucose plus oxygen produces carbon dioxide and water, and oxygen is released as a byproduct. And that's going on in all of our cells all of the time. So why is this important? Well, Mars is an extreme environment because it has no food source to provide glucose for humans, for our cellular respiration. And it's only got 0.174% oxygen compared to Earth's 21%. So we would need a pressurized airtight spacesuit supplied by an oxygen generator to meet our oxygen needs so that our cells could continue to produce energy through cellular respiration. Without these technologies, we would suffer brain death and subsequent death almost immediately. You could mention asphyxiation or hypoxia being death from low levels of oxygen. So an example of technology that would meet this need is the MOXIE, or Mars Oxygen Experiment, and that's pictured here, and it uses electricity to separate oxygen from carbon dioxide. Now, I could go into a lot more depth and detail about that, but that meets the basic needs, and that meets the criteria with which we have to work within. If you were doing this, I would love you to go into more detail about some of the aspects of how the MOXIE does that. Okay, next up, temperature. So it's a key survival need. The temperatures on Mars are around about minus 63 degrees C on average. And that's so low that the enzymes, the little proteins inside each of our cells that make cellular respiration happen, would not be able to work, and so we would die. To maintain our core body temperature of 37 degrees, so that those enzymes could continue to function as normal, we would need technology that would produce thermal energy or heat, such as a small nuclear reactor. This produces thermal energy through radioactive decay of plutonium, a radioactive substance. And this produces around 1,500 to 1,800 watts of heat, which is like having a portable campfire. And we saw that in the film The Martian. So that's two technologies that I've explained. There's some sources there, which you're welcome to go and visit as well and to see where I got my information from. And we're going to finish up with checking my work against the criteria. So here's the little marking grid that you should be fairly familiar with by now. We have selected and processed information as evidenced in my 4 sources, and I've linked those into the document to show where I used them. And that information links conditions of the extreme environment, such as conditions on Mars, to the technology, such as the MOXIE. I've described, both through the oxygen levels and temperature with values, why Mars is an extreme environment, and also the situation with the lack of food. I've described how the technology allows survival. I've explained, although I could have gone into a lot more detail, how the technology allows survival, such as the MOXIE splitting carbon dioxide into oxygen from carbon dioxide, and how the reactor produces thermal energy through radioactive decay of plutonium. I've justified that with additional information and linking it back to the equation for cellular respiration. And I've recorded these sources in a traceable format so that as a marker, I could go in and visit those links and check out those sources. Okay, so that meets all of the criteria for excellence. I hope that's useful for you. I look forward to seeing your final assessment on Antarctica. All right, thanks very much, guys. Good luck.